Hi everyone, it's Majori here from the Punk Priestess, and welcome to May. We are going to be talking about the astrology and tarot of the month, get the vibe, get the energy, all the things. And I predicted, based off of the astrology for May, that this was going to be one of the more crazier, wild, changeable months of 2025. So there's a couple on my list, and May is definitely, I feel, a catalyst of a lot of change. And it's like the tower card is shaking. It's like an earthquake. And I have with me my almanac. This is a personal almanac that you can get customized for your chart for the year. This is from Honeycomb. And I was looking at my transits recently because this week was crazy. There was so much that happened. Pretty much all the plans I had for my week just like fell apart and crumbled. And I was like, I have to see what's going on in my chart because usually things go really smoothly for me. And a lot of these plans were like months in advance. And it was just, yeah, wild stuff. I locked myself out of my car. I was supposed to teach a class. I had to cancel it because I couldn't like get there. So there's just like a whole bunch of other stuff like going on with like every element of my life. But if you are looking at your chart for the transits coming up, I mean, we just had so much going on in March and in April with the astrology, and then May is another heavy hitter month as well as June and July. So it's like boom, 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 boom. We're getting it like all in a row. But I was looking at when a lot of this craziness happened for me last week, and um, I had Neptune moving into my seventh house. So Neptune is in Aries right now. It hasn't been in Aries like 150 years, and this started in March, on March 30th. And you want to see where Neptune is in your chart, what house it's transiting, because Neptune has been in Pisces for 14 years, since 2011. So, you have to kind of see what has been going on with Neptune. And Neptune just entered my seventh house on 1 p.m. on the 29th of April. And then literally like 3 hours later, 4 hours later, Mars went into my 11th house. So that's where a lot of like the crisis, like at those times, like kind of unfolded for me that day. And then also the 30th was crazy. And that is when Juno went into my second house, and then Venus went into Aries. So there's just like so much going on in everyone's chart and everyone's astrology. And a lot of these heavy hitters are going to be really kind of spearheading the energy in our personal lives as well as collectively in the month of May. So, I'll link this for you so you can get this yourself and have it customized for your chart. And every single day, it lets you know what transits are going on that's influencing your chart, and if there's anything that's changing houses or, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll kind of show you May here, just the beginning of it. So here's for May. So it gives you all of like the major transits collectively, all the retrogrades, new moon, full moons, and anything like going direct. So anything happening with like your natal and outer planets, your natal transit. So there's a lot here, but May is definitely it's a heavy month. So um I have here all of the transits for the month, and I have put this, at least the main transits are on my social media right now. So I do that the first of every month, and it's also on my Substack as well. So if you want a list of everything, that would be there for you. But right now, for the next 2 days, we have every planet direct, and then Pluto's like, hold my beer, I'm going to go retrograde for 6 months. So Pluto will be going retrograde in Aquarius on May 4th. It is going to be at 3 degrees and 49 minutes. So, look at, if you have anything in those close degrees in your chart, if anything in Aquarius, that is going to be influenced. And Pluto will be going retrograde. It will not be going back into the sign of Capricorn. It is going to be in Aquarius for the next 20 years. So just, understand that if you have anything in the early degrees of Aquarius, this retrograde will be influencing it. So, I do feel like already right in the first week of May, a change of events. We have the shake of the tower is really, I mean, it's already been starting. Like we have vibrations of it, we can feel it, the frequency, but I really do think there's just so much heightened energy collectively right now, and even in our own personal lives, like being very amplified. It's like we're really seeing a lot of these structures really start losing bricks, and slowly disintegrating and demolishing. On May 10th, we have Mercury entering Taurus. Finally, because Mercury has been in Aries for several months with the retrograde, and now it's officially in Taurus. So, kind of a hallelujah for anyone with Mercury in Aries, your girl included, who had Mercury go over my degrees 3 times in the past 2 months. So, it's been a lot. On the 12th of May, we have the Scorpio full moon, and this is at 22 degrees and 13 minutes. So I really feel that this is going to be a really huge turning point with the astrology, with the energy of the year. I think a lot of like stuff is going to go down. I will be covering the full moon more exclusively on my Substack with the Sabian symbol overview, as well as a curated tarot spread and more insight there. So kind of stay tuned in 2 weeks for a more elaborate read on the Scorpio full moon. But for some reason, intuitively, I'm like, shit's gonna go down on this full moon in Scorpio. I know it. I feel like this is a huge turning point of the year. We have Ceres entering Aries, so that's an asteroid. That's going to be on May 16th. On May 20th, we have Gemini season starting. So happy birthday to all of my Geminis. And then this is another pivotal moment of the year with the astrology. And this is going to be on May 24th, and Saturn will be entering Aries. So the last time this happened was 30 years ago. So this was like 1996, if I have my math correct, maybe not, I don't know, or like 1997, 1998, like around that time. So it's been a while. It's been a while. It's been since the 90s. So I was like 3 when the last time this happened. So this is going to be really insane. So that's kind of why I'm like, I don't know. Once the middle and the end of May come around, like it gear up. There's going to be a shift, and we're going to have like this influx of Aries energy. So, Neptune's going to be there, and then we're going to have Aries there too, and they're going to be in the early degrees of the sign. So if you are really into the Sabian symbols, I was published last year to write about the Sabian symbols for these major planetary shifts. So I talk all about the early degrees of Aries in the book. I'll link below. But definitely like be on high alert of what is going on in the early degrees. When the sign's at the early degrees, as well as at 29 degrees, it's very pivotal. And I do think that we're really entering a new era, a new dawn, when now that Saturn's going to be meeting up with Neptune and Aries. And then the next day, on May 25th, we have Mercury entering Gemini, and then on the 26th, we have the new moon in Gemini. So it's like boom, boom, boom. We have so much Gemini energy, like an insurgence of Gemini energy. And the new moon degree will be at 6 degrees and 6 minutes. So just kind of, look out for that on my Substack. I'll be covering that at the end of the month. So just kind of like some more of the mundane aspects that are going on. We have the North Node sextiling Uranus and Pisces and Taurus. That's happening right now. Venus is conjuncting Neptune in Aries, and that's at 1 degree and 9 minutes, and that's happening today. So, Venus is in Aries, and it's going to be for the rest of the month in May. It just got in there. So yeah, Venus won't enter Taurus until June. So we have a whole month still with this Aries energy. We have on the 5th Mercury sextiling Jupiter in Aries and Gemini. The next day on the 6th, we have Venus sextiling Pluto in Aquarius, in Aries and Aquarius. So we have a lot of these like sextiles right now. On the 12th, which is the same day as the full moon, we have Mercury squaring Pluto, and Pluto is retrograde at this point. So this is Taurus and squaring Aquarius energy. So that's going to be really interesting with what's going on there. So that's kind of why I feel like there's like this intensity that is being drawn with this full moon. And like, full moons like illuminate things, they heighten things, they reveal things. We see the accumulation of it all. And I do think, maybe a lot of people will be waking up. Maybe there'll be a lot of like, awareness. And I just think that there's a lot of steam coming from that week with the 12th. On the 15th, we have the sun sextiling the North Node, and that's going to be in Taurus and Pisces. And we have the sun conjuncting Uranus in Taurus on the 17th, so that's pretty major and huge. The 18th, we have Mercury squaring Mars in Taurus and Leo. So, Mercury is like squaring a lot. Like Mercury is like, I'm not compatible with you fools. So, but with the squares is when we have an assurgence of perseverance and we do have like this headstrong energy. So, the squares are like we're doing something. We've had a lot of trines recently, and trines are pretty horrible. Like there's a lot of complacency with the trines. And, it's better to have trines going on in your chart, your natal chart, than collective. So I think, we're still experiencing, some of this trinity energy, but we now have some squares taking shape. On the 18th, we have Jupiter squaring the North Node. So, like, the North Node is also continuously being a major player in Pisces. Now that everything's moving into Aries, there is a lot of squares going on with the North Node. The 20th, we have the Sun sextiling Saturn, and this is in Taurus and Pisces. On the 22nd, we have quite a lot going on. We have Venus trining Mars in Aquarius and Leo, and then the Sun sextiling Neptune in Gemini and Aries. So I think that's a really interesting one. And yeah, this is kind of gearing up for, and this is still going to be like consistent when Saturn enters Aries. And on the 23rd, we have Mercury sextiling North Node in Taurus and Pisces. There's a little bit more compatible energy flow there. The Sun trining Pluto is also going to be happening on the 24th, the same day that Saturn enters Aries. So that's going to be a little bit of like, I don't know, that's going to be a little bit more of like an easy energy, but then we also have on the 24th, Mercury conjuncting Uranus in Taurus at 27 degrees and 42 minutes. So I feel that that's going to be like intense. So there's just a lot, like, like I said, we have to watch out what's going on the 12th as well as like the 25th, the 24th, as well as the 25th, 26th. I think those are going to be like major moments. And then on the 25th, we have Mercury sextiling Saturn and Gemini and Aries, Mercury sextiling Neptune, Gemini and Aries, now that we have this early energy of Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees and at 1 degrees, like Mercury and a lot of this Gemini energy is going to be very compatible with it, which is good. I think it's going to be good for a lot of action, a lot of communication, a lot of intention. It seems like a lot of mental intention and strategy is really going to be able to take off into a form of action, like physical action, which, could also be disastrous in terms of, if martial law or something like that gets, erected. But I do feel that there could be a lot of intensity coming, but also a lot of empowerment, self-empowerment and collective empowerment with this compatible energy. And then, the 27th, we have Mercury trine Pluto, Gemini and Aquarius, and then we have Mercury conjuncting the Sun in Gemini at 9 degrees and 1 minute, and that is at the end of the month on the 30th. So that's the astrology. A little overview. I'll talk more extensively with it on my Substack. So make sure you're subscribing if you want the tea, if you want it all. I will be going back to more deep dives on my Substack with the transits. I had to kind of take a little step back because this year has been a lot personally for me, and I'm also getting married in 2 months, so it's just been a lot. So once the festivities are underway, I will be back to giving like my full Sabian symbol reports like I was doing a couple months ago, but I kind of had to take a little bit of a backseat on that. But I am still, trying to cover the main astrology events and like having tarot spreads, having the saving symbols. But to go through every single transit, it is quite extensive. But I am doing my best, as we all should. We have to pace ourselves in these crazy times. Um, but yeah, so that is the astrology. We're gonna see what comes up with the cards here. I have a couple new decks we're going to be using. So I'm really excited because I haven't used one of these decks in a reading yet, and it's vintage, so it's highly coveted. I'm really excited to go through the cards with you. I made an unboxing video that's going to be released soon this month on the deck, and it's actually a deck from, there's only one edition. It was printed in 1997. So kind of like the last time Saturn was in Aries. That's kind of crazy. 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago. But we're going to start with the main energy here. And I've definitely a lot of oracle decks we're going to be using throughout this spread. So we'll see what the vibe is. And like always, I have pictures of the cards, and you'll be able to look at that on my Substack. So make sure you're subscribing for all the details. So I pulled a couple cards here because I pulled the Two of Swords first. So when I pull the Two of Swords, I like to pull a card on each side of it because it's like crossroads. It's definitely like maybe some indecision or choices and decisions that we need to make, and making sure that we're seeing everything clearly. So what I have on each side of the Two of Swords, I have the Wheel of Fortune upright, and then I have the Seven of Wands reversed. So this is interesting. It's been very fascinating because I read so many clients a week. The Wheel of Fortune has really been coming through. It has been not subtle. I've been kind of preparing us for Jupiter's venture into Cancer next month. So I feel that that's interesting that that's coming up, but we have the Seven of Wands, which I'm also intrigued by with this reversal because it feels like a very upward version of the Seven of Wands right now collectively. But then we have the reversal. So this is kind of a choice that we need to make in our own personal lives. And then, eventually we'll get to the collective. But, we really have to focus on how we can live our best life, how we can enhance our fortune, our good luck, abundance, prosperity. Are we in flow with that? And if not, what do we need to do? What choices do we need to make? What change do we need to make in order to continue to receive or to get closer to receiving this abundance from the Wheel of Fortune? With the Seven of Wands here, it's, the bridges you burn light the way, but it's also kind of reflecting on what we're giving our time, attention, and energy to, and if it's really serving us and leading us towards this path of fortune. And I think we need to, in our own personal lives, reflect on how we can take a different course of action and what needs to change. And this could be, small routines. Like we have to remember, this is the year of the hermit, and I've been thinking about this a lot with like self-development and how can I show up and be the best version of myself? How can I reap optimal success in my life? What am I not doing enough? And I've been reflecting on the changes that I need to do and how I can consistently evoke those changes to get me to where I need to be. And I kind of woke up this morning with this feeling of like, there's something that I've been holding off on for 2 years now. I've worked on it and then I set it aside, and I've been very apprehensive of getting back into this project. But I know this project is like part of my destiny. So there's intimidation with it because I know it's going to probably take the next 2 years of my life to complete. But I also took 2 years off, and there's a lot of guilt and disappointment in the course of the journey. So I kind of woke up this morning and I was like, I can't put this off any further and I got to get this done. And I got to figure out how to really consistently schedule this project into my routine, what I need to do to kind of get myself to where I need to be, to get myself to the fortune. What choices do I need to make? What, crossroads do I need to eliminate? What form of action do I need to optimize, and what do I need to let go of? What do I need to get more disciplined in order to get on this journey to reap the fortune, to reap the success? And kind of think about that. That's kind of the lesson of the Hermit for 2025. Is like, how can we self-improve? How can we self-master? How can we be more disciplined, discerning, and figure out how we can get ourselves in the best routine so that we can reap the rewards of fortune. And the last time that Jupiter was in Cancer was in 2014, 2015. And just, I think reflecting on that time of where you were spiritually, how was your soul showing up? How, were you living your destiny at that time? How has it evolved into what you're doing now with your destiny, with your talents, gifts, abilities, with your pursuits? How has family in your ancestral history been woven into that message, into that story the past 12 years, and how is that going to transcend into the next 12 years? I feel, and it's interesting because I really do feel this, especially with my Black clients. I really feel like the ancestors that were enslaved in this country, and that just throughout the lineage of the Black people in this country are really coming up to the front lines, because we're mirroring the astrology of revolutionary times, of the Civil War. So it's kind of like these ancestors, they haven't been asleep. Like they've always are around us and active, but there's something cellular on the other side, in the other realm, that is being like called into existence right now, and is speaking through all of us. And I just really feel this activation on the other side. It's coming through with everyone, but it's kind of interesting how a lot of the clients I'm reading for, especially in the Black community, that there is something going on with an emergence of talents, gifts, and abilities, especially in ties to a spiritual connection. And that is really what I think is being played out here, and what we're going to really see with Jupiter moving into Cancer, is making sure that we're in alignment with that spiritual path and truth, and that we're listening to our guides and ancestors to make the right choices, to put our energy to cross the right bridges to get us to this fortune, and to keep this in our sights, and to work towards it, and to receive it. So I feel like that's what's really going on here. And I even think too, like, let's say collectively, what's going on with this energy is that we have to make the choice of living our best life, and how we can still live full embodied lives through fascism, because that's where we are right now. And there was a Substack post I read about, some books on people who lived through fascism and in other countries, and how they were able to fully live, abundant lives, despite, governmental chaos and national destruction. So there's a choice there we got to make too, is like, we can't always be on the front lines. We can't always, be tuned in to the chaos. And yes, like, we can see the tower crumble and shake on the background, but sometimes we can't look at it. We have to continue on our merriment. We have to continue focusing on our destiny. We have to focus on our talents, gifts, and abilities, and prosperity. We can't let, caution and fear override what our soul's mission is to do. And our soul chose this time for a reason. So we have to honor that, and we have to do something, about it. We have to continue holding on to our dreams, hopes, and visions, and that won't stop, because there's collective chaos in the country. it might be delayed, it might be limited. We'll see how things go, but it's like you need to continue on the path of your visions and dreams and your destiny, and that will kind of light the way towards the right new bridge that you need to cross to get that fulfillment. Heavy. Heavy hitters right off the bat. All right. Yeah, I'm going on vacation in a day, in 2 days, a day and a half. And I'm not going to be on my phone. So, I mean, I'll be on my phone doing wedding planning stuff and things that I need to do, but I won't be looking at news and things like that because we need a break. We also need to conserve our health. Remember, the year of the hermit is Virgo energy. It's very health conscious too, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, all the things. Um, so this is what I'm pulling here. I have the King of Swords upright. I have the Nine of Coins reversed. And then I have the Ace of Swords reversed. So it's interesting, like we have the Two of Swords and now we have our Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords is reversed though. So with our King of Swords, it's kind of interesting. I feel the King of Swords, we need to reflect on counsel at this time. We need to make sure that, we're honoring our own wisdom, our own intuitive downloads and messages, and, what we believe to be true. We have to, use that as some form of guidance and intel, but also we need to see who our leaders are, see who we can trust, see what is the truth. And it might not be the truth that we want to hear. It might not be the truth that we want to know, but we can't avoid the truth. We can't live in la la land. That's no longer an option because there is kind of this influence going on with financial stuff. We know what's going on there with tariffs and things. But, I've been thinking about this a lot of like who I can trust and whose stories are real. And this is just in a personal sense because a lot of people, I mean, we see this collectively. And we see this, I mean, we see this with P like, there's so much PR to like spin stories and to make things seem a certain way. And, we always see it, of course, with like celebrity gossip. That's probably the most like digestible, but we're seeing it, play out with this administration, obviously, of all the lies. But, I think in our personal lives and even in ourselves, reflecting on the stories that we tell, the stories that we believe, the stories that we mold, because we have to make sure there's integrity in these stories and that, people aren't just telling us a version that we want to hear, that we want to, hear to see them in a better light than what they really are. And I think that's something that is going to really be what breaks the seal, what, changes people's minds. Maybe this is a collective thing with government, but it can also be, in our own personal lives. Now that Aries is in Neptune, Saturn will be going into Aries. We're shattering a lot of illusions. We're shattering a lot of disillusionment, lies, all that Piscean 12th house stuff. The truth is really coming to light. And that's going to change a lot of things. But yeah, like I've been reflecting, I was, thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, I want to believe these stories are real. I want to believe that this is what's really going on, but what if it's a grift? What if it's, they're only telling me a version that, would make them, feel like the victim. There's a lot of like still victimizing of ourselves, or even other people. And I've seen that a lot in my personal life of people of like, are they using the victim trope? Are they really truthful? Are they really honest? Is this integrity or is this spinning a tale to make them seem like they're in a better light than what they really are? And that's also something like you learn as an intuitive reader when you're working with a lot of people, because I read like hundreds of people a month. And you have to kind of like dispel a lot of the stories because yeah, there's a lot of like twist and things like that. And I've learned to kind of just take things as half truths with a lot. And I kind of feel like that's what's coming out and what's going to be illuminated, especially as we get so much like Mercury energy coming in Gemini, like home sign, the end of this month. We're going to have the sun in Gemini. We're going to have the new moon in Gemini. We're going to have so much Gemini energy towards the end of the month. So I kind of feel like there's going to be a lot of spells that are being broken. There's going to be a lot of who is a truth teller, what is real. Maybe we can actually get rid of this conspiracy theory Piscean mentality and really, focus on the truth. As there's been the past couple of years, there was so much heightened awareness on conspiracy, like everything's conspiracy or like all this stuff. And it was just kind of like, no, it's not. So, we need to kind of get back to truth. And I think that's what's going to be coming through with Aries. So Saturn and Aries and Neptune Aries, that combined force towards the end of May. But there is, I don't like to see the Nine of Coins reverse. I don't like this energy. I want this upright, especially if we have the Wheel of Fortune in the deck. So, I think this is kind of saying that we have to look at fortune in another way that is not financial gain. I have so many clients now that are like, let me know about money. Tell me about money. And the money stuff is not really a big theme right now, even though it's Taurus season. Everyone wants to know about their money. We just had tax season, but that's not really where we need to put our focus. Like I said earlier, we have to put our focus if we're living our highest truth and calling and we're connected to our soul mission and our destiny. And if we're listening to our ancestors into what that is and facilitating that path for us, not so much about how much money we have. It is kind of important. We have to survive. We have to hold financial stability in our life, but it's not so much of like these mass gains and profits. That's not going to be happening for anyone, according to what's going on in this country. So we need to kind of like let go of that disillusionment that financial things are going to be better. There hasn't been any intel for anyone within the past month and a half of giving readings that it's going to be this prosperous financial time. We just have to make sure our needs are being met. But what the Wheel of Fortune is kind of saying, it's like we have to look at fortune a different way. We can't look at it as money. We have to look at it as how are we acquiring a form of genuine softness, genuine appreciation for life and gratitude into our world, and that will spin the wheel. And that might be the slow intention of Taurus too. It's like, I don't know. I have a green thumb and I have now over 50 houseplants and they're all thriving really well. This is a new venture for me. It just started not even a year ago and it's been very beautiful, a very beautiful happening in my life. But I was just like, it's so fortunate that I get to be able to appreciate and enjoy the growth of these plants that are living and thriving in my home. And, that connection to nature and that beautiful just observation of life. And I think that's the fortune that we need to start embarking on, not the materialistic fortune, the fortune of appreciation of, being here and of our health, most importantly too. I'm just going to pull some oracle cards. So, this is a deck here called the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. I also have an unboxing video coming out too. And I really like this deck. It's also connected to the astrology too. So that's like a really great thing. If you love astrology, this is a great oracle deck for you. So this is what I pulled here. I have the Sun in Pisces, and this is Vision. So really interesting card here. We kind of have like the third eye there. And then we have Indecision, which is Venus and Libra. So we have this indecision. And maybe this is, what's going on is like, and we're, yeah, we can be undecisive of the vision that we have for our life as we're going through this constitutional crisis in our country, as, things are really horrible and on their way to probably get even worse before they get better. But I think we even are indecisive of what vision we want to have for America too. And that's why like the channelers, the mystics, the intuitives, the clairvoyants, like we need to really get together and project our vision of what we want the future of this country to be, and the future of ourselves to be. And the vision that's being, yeah, this administration is trying to play out of fascism and this dictatorship, that's not the vision that Americans want, clearly, and that's not the vision that's going to uphold. But we need to create a new vision, but there's some indecision of how to do that. And I think this is a really interesting card here. We have like this angel, you can kind of like reflect this as like faith, and then we have this person with their hands in their head and their head in their hands, and this is like fear. So we can either go through the vision of faith and trust in a higher power, a higher source, or we can go towards the vision of fear. And that's what we need to decide. Kamala gave a really good speech this week about that, and also about how, don't subscribe to fear. There's so much of it because fear controls you. And that's kind of why I think this Wheel of Fortune is like, still live your best life, don't put plans on hold because of fear of the unknown. Someone I know was talking about yesterday how they decided not to move forward with adding to their family because of what's going on collectively, and like I completely understand that, but it's also at the same time it's never going to be a perfect time for anything in life. You can't put things on hold if you want it, and you're just going to have to figure it out, and it's like, yeah, we still have to subscribe to the frequency of the light of the faith. And that's the vision that we need to carry. Like, let's have the sun rise, you know? Let's hold a stronger vision than the vision that Project 2025 is trying to uphold. They've been working on that vision for a couple of decades now. So we have to work on a new vision, but we can speed it along because we're intuitive, because we're connected to a higher source, a higher power, because we're connected to something positive and not something evil and negative. And I think this is what we really need to do. And we have to, because this is, Mars and Libra, we have to, or Venus and Libra, we have to, focus on collective vision with others. And, that's why it's important that we have Neptune and Aries and Saturn and Aries, so that we can have action, that we're not blinded by the Piscean energy that has been taking precedence the last 14 years. But it's also like we need to make sure that we know who to trust with upholding this vision. We want to make sure not everyone's going to have the same vision, but we can at least be in alignment with the vision. And that's maybe what we need to do better on. I see it in some spaces on TikTok with mediums and talking about this, and I read the comments and people are like, there's alignment there with the vision. But I think we need to do a better job on making this stronger. Maybe that's something that will come through. Like Neptune and Aries, it's a spiritual warrior, so maybe this will come through, the stronger vision. But there's a lot of like indecision of how to do that because we're still watching this tower crumble. The tower hasn't demolished yet. It hasn't just deconstructed. We don't really know yet how we want to rebuild it and reconstruct it once the tower falls. That's the vision that we're still trying to figure out. But that vision will be upheld by us. It will be upheld by people who are, have a higher conscious. They will create this new vision. And this is the age of Aquarius. We have 20 years to do this. I mean, it won't be finished in this Pluto Aquarian age, but we have to really get going on it. And I think we are, but I feel there's a lot of reluctance because there's so much horrible shit happening around us. But we really need to start planting these seeds. We really need to start projecting what we want that vision to be vocally. We need to do it with other people. We need to get into shared safe spaces and project this and manifest it and have a crystal grid and have a sound bath and, all these things. Like we really need to put that frequency out there on a consistent way. And we need to make sure everyone is upholding that and doing that in their own consistent way. So that is something that we need to gather and do. This will, continue to be the message for not only this year. This is going to take some time to build. Their Project 2025 spent several decades, building theirs, and we're going to spend the next couple of decades building ours, and it will take precedence. I think also when it comes to relationships, that there's a lot here, and maybe I have a lot of relationship stuff on my mind because Neptune just went into my seventh house and will be there for a while. I feel that we need to really reflect on not who we're friends with and things like that, but it's kind of like we're thinking about the truth that exists in relationships, the insight, the wisdom, the empowerment that exists in relationships, the trust, but also the relationships that we're trying to build for the future and the community we're trying to build for the future. And I do a lot of community building in person. I run an in-person Tarot and Astrology club every month. I do a lot of classes, and I'm very much in the public. Working, that's where most of my work is. So I have a lot of in-person interaction when it comes to this work. So I feel like online, yes, is important too, but there's a different frequency when you're working offline and in person in community. And I think that's something that we need to do better of, and we need to kind of come together, get off the phone, which is, I feel like social media is really losing its appeal. We're getting off the phone and we're moving into the physical with this Aries energy, because action needs to be done in person. It's not going to be done always through a screen. You can only get so far. And we've seen that with the SAVE Act not being passed in the Senate. There was physical action taken so that wouldn't happen. I even went to a protest in March for the SAVES Act to not get that passed. So, people showing up, people calling their senators, doing physical work and labor is what is working. Not always, I'm just going to share a video or a post on Instagram. Like that's not doing it. That's very Piscean. We got to move into the form of action, the spirited action of Aries to get things done. Even this was something too, like we can't continue to hide behind a screen. And this is something I learned working in fashion in New York, like a phone call is faster than an email. So I was always advised, like, just call them. You have a desk phone, just call them, get things done. Like instead of waiting around for, 15, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours for an email response. And this is something I did yesterday with trying to confirm my makeup appointment for my wedding. It's been back and forth through communication with email and texts and everything, and it's taking too long. And I was like, I got to just pick up the phone, and immediately got what I needed to done. So, it's just kind of like we got to have that type of action, and that's what hopefully these squares in the charts for May can kind of push us towards that. And we have to have other people not be indecisive of the action that they need to take. Everyone needs to be showing up in some type of physical way. All right, so this is my new deck. Well, it's new, but it's old. This is the treasure trove. This is Adrian Tarot. This is a vintage deck, and it's highly coveted. Yes, it is pricey. Yes, I got it on sale for a little bit off, but this has been a deck on my wish list for the past like 4 years, and I've like finally pulled the trigger. I'm like, I have not bought a new deck in a while, especially a tarot deck. I've been buying a lot of Oracle decks, but this is the deck that I was like, I'm gonna like splurge on and treat myself, and it's so good. So this is what I pulled here. So I have the Six of Cups, which is nostalgia. Very beautiful. I love the ombre. It's kind of like matches my backdrop a little bit. So I love the ombre colors. And this was made in 1987. This is like before Photoshop. So, I don't know how they did this all, but it's beautiful. And then I have the tarot card of the star reversed. And, I think this is a very beautiful message here to kind of say, like I was saying, like Pluto's in Aquarius, which is the star. I feel that we really have to band together. We gotta water each other's gardens, grass. We have to find harmony. Six is very harmonious. The number of harmony, like we have to find harmony, and we have to find some type of connection, and we can't lose our humanity, but we also have to find connection through our past. Like we all have, despite background, political belief, religion, blah blah blah, we all have some common threads, and we all have we all have things that we've experienced. I was on TikTok and I started following this Muslim woman, and she's like really funny, and she just like kind of lists off, certain things that, either annoy her or experiences that she had with, whatever. And it was just like, it's kind of funny to hear them, but it's like, despite her, religious background, she's experienced a lot of the same things that I've experienced. And we have like, the same type of humor and things like that. So we're all connected. We all have, something despite, background, religion, political belief. We all are interwoven together and have shared experiences. And we need to find that commonality and remember our humanity. And get back to the star, get back to this collective organization, get back to this, being a good neighbor type of energy. But we have to kind of continue to come back to that. I think like the forces are growing stronger, like we really are getting more connected, and that's part of the in-person action that we're taking. But also, we're bridging the gap. We're starting to bridge the gap. We're trying to figure out how to do it, but it's like slowly we're finding that path. Even too, like, there was this whole like don't believe like, article titles and headlines and that clickbait and thinking that something's like inevitable. And the metaverse was supposed to be something, oh, you're not going to be able to avoid it, it's going to come for you, blah blah blah. And they oh my God, I can't think of his name, but the creator of Facebook, you know who I'm talking about. He just like laid off a bunch of people who were a part of that world, and they're kind of like disfranchising it. They're like letting it go because people aren't going to want that. People aren't subscribing to it. A lot of these big tech companies that think they're all powerful and strong, they're actually realizing that people aren't subscribing to that type of vision. That's a very Piscean vision. It's getting lost into another world and not facing reality. But that vision is dying. It's old. It's done. We're in Aries energy now. We'll be back a little bit in Pisces, so we'll be a little diluted, but that would be more towards the fall into the winter. But then we're going to have a full uprising wake up, and that will be, it's here, it's now, it's in our face, but it's going to really emerge more so in 2026. But we just have to be in person for things, if we can. Like, of course, not all of us have like the physical health for that. So not saying, you're not doing enough, but I do feel like the majority of people really need to start taking action and really reflecting on what was going on in the 60s and 70s with protest and things like that. We have to get inspiration from that time. I keep asking myself, like, what would Gloria Steinem do? That is like what I keep asking myself. Like, what would Jesus do? It's a very, Piscean, Christ-like energy. We're moving away from that. Now we're moving into what would Gloria Steinem do? And who was Gloria Steinem? She was an Aries, like yours truly, but she was an Aries. And we have to really find inspiration with Aries leaders right now, and people who have like very strong Aries on their chart, like Jasmine Crockett, she's an Aries. Tim Watts is an Aries. Kamala has an Aries moon. Like, people have strong Aries energy. Those are going to really be the leaders of this new age, of this new dawn, and also people with Aquarius energy too. But it's really going to be in Gemini. There's going to be like the air signs and the fire signs. It's their time to really rise and have a new perspective. And because these are the signs, these are the elements of action, get things done. But we've been under this like earthy, watery energy with Pisces and Capricorn for so long. It's nice to wake up and emerge into the flame. But with nostalgia coming in, like we have to reflect on the past. The past gives us a lot of inspiration for the future. I think our ancestors are feeding the past through us, and it's like, do something better, carry the torch, reflect on our stories. We're going to give you insight, and we're going to guide you and give you the strength that you need through us, through our past like life. We're going to give that to you so you can carry the torch into the future. We have to reflect on the past dreams and visions that we want for ourselves and not put them on hold. That is the Wheel of Fortune with Jupiter emerging into Cancer. We can't abandon our old dreams. We can't abandon what our soul wants because it's not the right political time right now. You got to do what you want to do because you might not have the time again. You might not, have the physical health, the bodily autonomy, even to get this chance and decision. So, that's one thing my partner and I are talking about. We want to start a family and we are going to be doing that relatively soon. But yeah, it's never going to be the best time, but it's also like, I'm in Michigan and we have a really great governor. So we have, rights here for women, but not everyone has that in their states, and it's hard, but we live in a good state right now, and it's kind of like take the opportunity. So, it's kind of like there's no time for like the present, and you can't put off your dreams. And that's like why, like, recapture, reclaim your vision, like don't have the administration, the white supremacy house, don't have them override your vision with their fear, in putting fear in your vision. That's going to close the third eye. It's like, no, like do what you want to do. This is your life. Your soul chose to be in this timeline. So do what you need to do. And you'll figure it out. You're never guaranteed. No one knows what they're doing. You can try to get intel, collectively, intuitively, astrologically, whatever, but no one knows. You can have premonition, but they aren't always accurate, and they're never accurate, actually. It just, shows you a glimpse, a second glimpse of something, but who knows what it fully is, that vision. All right. So I just got this guidebook. I just got this deck. So I just want to double check really quick what season this is. I think I know, but I want to be clear. Okay. So this is from this Astronomia deck. It's a deck that was created in 1829, actually, an astrology deck. And Natasha Rowland of Urania Press brought it back into the 21st century. Hello. So us modern day astrologers can use it. And I just featured a whole interview on her on my Substack today. And there's also an unboxing video of this deck. But I am pulling the card of Saturn. And this is for the fall. So it's interesting we're talking about Saturn because Saturn's going to be moving into Aries this month. And then in the fall, on September 1st, it's going to be going back into Pisces. So um, this is going to be interesting here. Just to kind of, be aware of the progress of the change you're making. And just because it's going back into Pisces doesn't mean it's going to falter. I mean, there's also the high vibration of Pisces, which is, dreams, vision, spiritual connection, inspiration. So a lot of what the action that we're taking with Saturn's venture into Aries, where it's going to really turn into some new dreams and vision once it move into Pisces. And hopefully we can kind of rid ourselves of some of that indecision. But I think there's going to be a lot of kind of like restoring and revitalizing and redoing with the eclipses and Pisces in Virgo season. We're going to have a lot of like really getting this vision intact and getting it more concrete and holding it into some like solid form. But I do feel like Saturn will hit, a different beat in Pisces. It's already in Pisces right now, but look what we're doing. It's going to go back in these degrees in the fall. So look at what we're doing. We're creating a new vision, and we'll take action upon that vision this month, and we'll get closer and deeper into that. But I think Saturn in the fall is kind of saying, look out for this energy. Look out for, the September. September is another big month that is really going to be taking place and pushing us forward. That's a lot, but I'm going to just end here with one more card. And this is a color oracle deck from Moon Nectar Apothecary, one of my favorite decks. And we're just going to see what the color energy is. So beautiful. I have this card of crystalline here. So very beautiful card. Crystal visions. I don't know. That's just what it reminds me of. I'm going to read a little bit of this. Just to kind of give a little glimpse of what this is about. Get past it. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it'll take too long for me to find it. if I can. If I can't, we're just gonna just use our own intuitive energy. Um, I don't know, is it not in here? Can I not find it? All right, I don't want this to take too long. I apologize in advance. I don't see it in this book. I know it's in here, but it's not, yeah, let's see. All right, well, you know what? It's fine. I don't see it in here. It's not, oh, here I found it randomly. It's in this random spot. Okay. So, this is divine source, togetherness, cosmic consciousness, humanity, society, hello, the star card. It's reversed though. We're getting there. We're already on the, horizon. Society, justice, safety, balance for Six of Cups here. Unity, utopia, the eternal, angelic presence with our spirit guides coming through. Spirit guides, soul purpose, like I've been talking about, healing work and transcendence. I mean, doesn't this is why I love ending with this deck because it always wraps up what the reading is like in a perfect bow. So those are all the themes that I hit on this and during this reading. The astrology is the sun, it's our immortal spiritual self. Crystals, moonstones, selenite, quartz. This guidebook's amazing. I'm not gonna read all this, just a little bit. So alignment and balance projections, balancing opposing forces or bringing unity. That's what we really have to work on collectively. And that's what I think we're doing. That's why we have to reflect on, the counsel, the words that we're hearing, we're seeking, the conversations we're having, trying to form new connections, trying to have new ideas, new visions so we can bridge this gap into this wheel of fortune. Healing divisions, undergoing healing or recovery from illness, near-death experiences that bring profound impact and change our lives, moving past trauma, living our embodied truth, being protected or watched over, guide energy, which is what's going on if our ancestors very heightened at this time, cosmic order, enlightenment of the spirit, enhancement of sovereign energy body. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I do feel like when it comes to healing, yes, healing illness and sickness for sure. But I also that's very, hermit Virgo energy. But with the Nine of Coins, we need to really heal our relationship with money. We need to heal our relationship to these material physical attachments and realize we don't need like all of this, consumerism and this capitalistic upheaval. We need to try to find a new system to move away from that. And that's why I think the Nine of Coins is reversed. It's like, let's build better. Let's, plant better seeds. Let's grow things that are stronger. Like I started using water from my Brita for my plants and they're growing 10 times stronger and more phenomenal and lusher. So I think we have to, kind of changing our practice, kind of changing what we regard as fortune, what we regard as good luck, what we regard as prosperity. That could be health. I think about that now. I have a lot of like some of the closest people in my life are going through a lot of really hard health challenges right now. So health is so important that we maintain it and that we have it during these revolutionary times. And if we other people don't have it, we can show up and support for them. But yeah, this is a very deep reading. I'm not surprised with the astrology and the energy of May. Yeah, this is a lot, but I think, this is the powerful message that we need to push us through this month. But yeah, that's the reading. That's the reading. I think we're going to end here. And I am available for readings. I'm going to be taking a little bit of time off. I might be taking like 2 months off for wedding prep as well as maybe doing some traveling this summer. So if you do want a reading with me, I am available in May and June, and then I'm going to be closing my books for a little bit, but I will be back. But make sure you get your reading in. I'm available for astrology readings, Lenormand, mediumship, as well as tarot, of course. But I hope you enjoy this reading, this energy, update and vibe for May. Thank you so much for subscribing, for supporting, and I will see you next month.